Thanks, guys. Good morning, everybody. And a Fox News alert now. Reform is out. Repeal is in for now. Senator Mitch McConnell pulling the plug on the revised Senate health care bill, promising a vote on repealing Obamacare instead. President Trump has this message: let Obamacare fail. Big morning here, and I'm Bill Hemmer. Welcome to America's Newsroom. We'll try and figure it out as we go and what it means for you at home. And Shannon continues her vacation. How you doing, Smitty?
And I hope she's enjoying herself. We have a big couple hours coming up, a lot expected, especially in the 10 o'clock hour. Stay tuned for all of that. I'm Sandra Smith, in for Miss Shannon Bream this morning. The Senate bill is falling apart after Senators Mike Lee and Jerry Moran joined Rand Paul and Susan Collins in opposition. Despite the setbacks, some senators optimistic that Republicans can still bridge the divide. Here's Oklahoma Senator James Lankford from last hour.
This is kind of a no-fail moment that you have to be able to resolve all these issues. My focus for weeks has been, let's get all the people that disagree in one room and let's hammer this all out at one moment. And for whatever reason, we've not been allowed to do that, to get all of the different factions into one room at one time. We've all been negotiating one at a time. If we can get everybody together at one time and finish this, I think we can get it done.
Wow, so what now? In-depth coverage across Washington. John Roberts live at the White House. Reaction from the Trump team. Barbara York standing by with analysis. But we start on the Hill, where it's a busy morning already, with Peter Ducey. And what happens next, Peter?
The vote, Bill, is going to be in coming days, according to the Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Just now on his way into a hearing, Senator John Thune said he hopes that they'll have a vote soon. And there are only 18 more work days here in the Senate until the August recess, so we hope to know which one is circled on the calendar for this repeal-only vote after all the Republicans get together for lunch early this afternoon. So far, the only thing that we really know, the only specific about the Republican plan for the way forward, is that it'll be this, quote, according to the Majority Leader, a repeal of Obamacare with a 2-year delay to provide for a stable transition period to a patient-centered health care system that gives Americans access to quality, affordable health care. That is the same thing, basically, that they voted on in 2015, the Republicans did. But the Senate Minority Leader now, Chuck Schumer, says he doesn't want to vote on something old. He wants something new, saying in his statement this: Republicans should start from scratch and work with Democrats on a bill that lowers premiums, provides long-term stability to the markets, and improves our health care system. And the most recent reaction that we have to this is Senator Orrin Hatch on the way into this Senate Finance hearing. He said that they are really going to have to pull their ranks together to get this done, Bill.
Wow. Okay, so McConnell, did he win any Republicans late last night with this plan?
Nobody has come forward yet to say that they were a no and they are now a yes. However, Senator Rand Paul told me this morning, I saw him in line at the coffee shop, that this is what he's been calling for all along. And his office says that they see this as a big win, repeal only. But then you got Susan Collins, who is the only Republican in the Senate now who voted no on straight repeal in 2015. And then you've got somebody with a totally new set of concerns, Senator Ron Johnson, who thinks that McConnell breached his trust over the last few weeks, telling senators different things in private to win votes. If the repeal vote is to pass the Senate, it's going to have to go back to the House. That whole plan that they passed in May after so much turmoil is now totally tossed out. But I did speak to a spokeswoman for the House Freedom Caucus who says that if it makes it over there, it'll have the House Freedom Caucus support.
No, okay, we're going to need you through this one. Thank you, Peter Ducey, live on the Hill there. Sandra.
All right, things changing quickly. Meanwhile, healthcare negotiations falling apart just as President Trump was, as Bill just mentioned, hosting 7 other Republican senators at the White House last evening, strategizing a way forward over dinner. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts live with what the administration has to say at this point about all of this. John, so much of this happened last evening while many of us were sleeping.
It did, but the White House pivoted quickly, and the message from the White House now to Republicans in the Senate: you all voted for repeal in 2015. You can do it again. And here's the catch. The president wants this passed through the Senate and the House by the August recess. He wants Obamacare gone by August the 11th. The president was blindsided by this last night. He was having dinner last night, steak dinner here at the White House, with a number of senators when Senator Mike Lee of Utah and Jerry Moran torpedoed the repeal and replace plan in the Senate. White House sources say they believe that was more of a protest against the way that Mitch McConnell was handling the process than anything against the president. The president had just wrapped up that dinner again with the allies of repeal and replace when Lee and Moran announced their opposition to the bill. The president immediately telephoned the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and then immediately flipped to Plan B, tweeting out last night, quote, Republicans should just repeal failing Obamacare now and work on a new health care plan that will start from a clean slate. Democrats will join in. This morning, adding two more thoughts to that, quote, we were let down by all of the Democrats and a few Republicans. Most Republicans were loyal, terrific, and worked really hard. We will return. And as I have always said, let Obamacare fail, then come together and do a great health care plan. Stay tuned. As Peter Ducey mentioned just a second ago, that 2015 repeal bill had a 2-year sunset period, meaning that Obamacare would continue for another 2 years before being dismantled. The White House is looking for a similar sunset, maybe even more extended, in a new repeal bill. The date of December 31st, 2020 was mentioned to me this morning. In that time period, the White House hopes to get together with some Democrats because conservatives likely won't support any spending on an Obamacare replacement. I was told this morning that there are conservatives in the Senate who just want to go on record as saying we repealed the thing and we do not want to add any new spending. Now, it is possible that in that time period, Democrats could just balk at any kind of replacement to Obamacare and try to hang the whole thing around the necks of the Republicans, but pushing it beyond that is the sunset period beyond the 2018 midterm elections may protect them from some of the consequences of doing that. Sandra?
And as we know, John, the president urging repeal now, replace later with his latest tweet. What are the chances of passing repeal?
The White House feels pretty good about it, particularly if they can push this idea that you did it 2 years ago. You can do it again. Peter Ducey mentioned that every Republican in the Senate who was there in 2015 voted for repeal, with the exception of Susan Collins. Add to that two new senators, Todd Young of Indiana and John Kennedy of Louisiana. Young supported it in the House in 2015. Kennedy supports it now. They think, Sandra, they've got 51 votes, which would be enough to do it.
All right. Thank you very much, John Roberts at the White House.
Let's analyze with Barbara New York now, chief political correspondent, Washington Examiner, Fox News contributor. Barbara, good day to you. You write this morning, no surprise. What's going on here?
Well, the no surprise part is it's become pretty clear that a lot of Republicans, not just in the Senate, but also in the House, just don't want to repeal Obamacare. It was pulling teeth to get something through the House, and now this has absolutely collapsed in the Senate, and this is something they campaigned on. They made it their top policy priority. They vowed to do this for 7+ years, but when it came time to do it for real, that is, when they have a Republican president in the White House who will sign their bill, they don't want to do it.
Well, so what's the hang up here? You talk to these senators every day, but behind closed doors, what's the hang up?
Well, the fundamental hang up is that Obamacare benefits have started to flow. They started to flow in 2014. Americans began to receive subsidies. Medicaid was expanded. Americans are receiving an enormously greater number of benefits with Obamacare than they were before, and this bill would involve taking things away. Congresspeople do not like to take things away. They like to give things out.
But that's commentary on the entitlement state.
Absolutely.
And once it begins, it's so difficult to pull it back. Do you believe today that there will be a vote to repeal? Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. If you
Really?
look carefully at what Mitch McConnell said. He said the first thing the Senate is going to do is vote to take up the House bill. He only said that after he knew he didn't have the votes to bring the bill to the floor. And so now that's going to change. Well, after they supposedly take up the House bill, then the First Amendment will be that 2015 vote that they took to repeal Obamacare. But if it doesn't get to the floor, they don't have to take these votes. And remember, we've had a lot of Republican senators like Dean Heller and Shelley Moore Capito and Rob Portman and others, Charles Grassley, Joni Ernst, expressing grave doubts about voting for a bill that was far less than a full repeal of Obamacare. Do you think they want to come back and now vote for repeal like they voted for it in 2015? No.
There's a lot to go through. June 26th, this tweet from the Oval Office. Republican senators are working very hard to get there with no help from the Democrats. Not easy. Perhaps just let Obamacare crash and burn. That's from the president. Is that where we are headed?
The president's tweets have been a little disjointed today. On the one hand, saying they should immediately repeal Obamacare with some time period, and then on the other hand, saying, well, you should just let it die, and then they'll have to fix it. So the one thing that's really, really clear is that the president, while he has worked on this some, has not made the full court press of the beginning of his presidency that would have been required to get this bill across the line. The president has always seemed much more interested in tax reform. Obamacare was something he had to get out of the way beforehand, and it's just proved a killer for Republicans.
A killer indeed. Byron, thank you so much. Analysis there.
Thank you, Bill.
Analysis there in Washington, D.C. The House is going to take up this tax idea starting today.
Yep.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. But two of these senators have said there were no vote last night. We're not even at the dinner at the White House.
That changed everything.
Yeah, Jerry Moran and Mike Lee, they came out with the statements right after they had their last bite of steak.
And then the tweet from the president.
Bam. So that's where we are at the moment. We'll follow it along with you.
All right. And we're